Andy Hackett was a major influence in my life. I met him when I was about 10 years old, and what he said and what he did really influenced me at that point in time and for many years to come. But what I found out was that not only did he influence me, he led me. All of us have the ability to be an Andy to those around us today. Let's find out how.
Welcome to Advance with Mike Acker, the podcast designed to help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals alike break through barriers by improving their practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Your host is a best-selling author, executive coach, and founder of the Advance Public Speaking School and Advantage Publishing Group, two companies dedicated to providing an edge for leaders. Find out more about Mike at mikeacker.com. Now here's your host, Mike Acker.
When I look back at my life, I can trace down to about 20 people that made incredible influences in who I am today. Andy, who I met at 10, is one of those top 20 people. What happened? How did he lead me, direct me, and help me become the person that ultimately I became? Why did he have such an incredible impact in my life? I want to unpack that a little bit, but more so for the point of this. How can you and I, as leaders and communicators, impact and influence the people in our lives? How can we do it intentionally? And how can we see how we're influencing them and leading them right now? Leadership and communication go hand in hand, and you're going to see that in the way that we influence people. Now let's unpack influence and leadership and that connection. In the incredible book, The 21 Laws of Leadership, it's one of those top 10 leadership books. It's by John Maxwell. He's a mentor of mine. I've had a chance to learn from him for 20 plus years. I actually joined his team and became a John Maxwell certified team leader just because I realized he had played such a huge role in my life. I wanted more. I've read his books. I've attended his seminars. I've joined his group. And I want to repeat to you something he said. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. That's a quote from John Maxwell. It's a quote that I've thought about for the last 20 years. When I first heard it, I thought, well, that's a little bit huge to say nothing more, nothing less. Come on, really? But really thought about it. What is leadership? It's influencing people through your actions, through your words, through the programs that you run, through the services that you provide, through all of that. It's influencing people. So that means that those who have influenced us have led us. And when I realized that not only did Andy influence me, Andy led me. I moved down to Mexico right as I was turning 11, and I met Andy right away. He was one of the only other American kids in our circle, and he was an incredibly cool guy. He had long hair, and this is like 1990, right? And we were listening to Run DMC together, and then he encountered alternative music, and we were listening to that on our tape decks, and he's teaching me all the stuff, and we're watching Beavis and Butthead together, and my parents didn't know that, but we were watching that together, and we're acting like that. I was blonde, and he was brown-haired, so it worked well, and we did the different things that they did on that show, just ridiculously dumb at the time. Andy loved basketball, so my love for basketball grew, and I got to learn all the different teams in the NBA because of Andy. It wasn't something I'd watched up to that point in time. We traded baseball cards. We played video games. I still love SimCity because of Andy. I also learned how to relate to girls through Andy. So there's so much that he had in my life, so much influence. How was it? Well, he was cool, so I wanted to be like him. We were around each other all the different times. He said a lot of things, and he did a lot of things, and I watched, and I heard, and I was influenced, and I was led. I was led to adopt his political views at the time. I was led to adopt some of his faith perspectives at the time. I was led to adopt his music preferences. I still have some of the music that we listened to in the 90s right here as records on my bookshelf. He influenced me. He led me to all kinds of desires, to all kinds of actions, to all kinds of purchases. That's the power of influence. Now, Jim Rohn says that we are the average of the 5 people that are closest to us in this life. Those are 5 influences. Now, those 5 together collectively are leading us to become the type of person that's kind of like an amalgamation of who they are. Now, we're going to be led financially. If we're around people who are spending a lot of money, then we're going to spend a lot of money. If we're around a lot of people who are upwardly mobile, then we're going to become more upwardly mobile, and on and on and on. How is it that as leaders and communicators, we can harness this power of influence and use it so that we can help people get to a desired end? How can we do that? Well, let's analyze what I've written down as just 5 different ways that we influence people. The first one is we influence people by what we have said, past tense. My dad is definitely one of the top 10 influencers in my life, probably the top 3 influencers in my life. And when I look at his influence, a lot of his influence comes from what he said. Yes, it's what he's done as well in other ways, but let me just focus on him for what he said. Throughout my life, he has said all kinds of incredible things to me. He has praised me. He's noticed my strengths. He's encouraged me to take audacious steps. Yes, even speakers, sometimes we fumble with words, and that's okay. By the way, I don't like to edit those out because I like to see you, have you see me in the rawness of those moments, because speakers and leaders mess up too. My dad said all kinds of great things about me. He also said some negative things about me. When I was a kid, we'd go to soccer, and on the way back from soccer, he would just critique me and critique me. Here's what you did wrong. He'd also praise me. But I remember the criticisms, so much so that I sometimes didn't want to play soccer because I listened to what he said about me playing soccer. Now, I am a dad and I have a son who plays soccer, so I'm very careful on the way home. I just say, man, I love watching you play. It's an honor to watch you play. And later, when we play soccer together, then I can coach him, not critique him. But what he said, more than the negative of soccer and some other ones, he said so much positive, and that influenced me, which then led me to become the person that I am today. Not only is it through what we've said in the past, but it's also what we've done in the past. Here's someone that led me through what he has done, his track record, Wes Davis. Wes is a guy who has raised up leaders. He's invested in leaders. He's developed leaders. He's identified leaders. He's found people with potential, spoken it into his life, and done this again and again and again. So much so that when I see what he's done in his past, it's influenced one of my areas of my life mission, which is to develop and train people. Part of what I do right here with this podcast, with this YouTube video, is directly related to what Wes Davis has done. His track record of developing people influenced me then and influences me still. We're influenced by what has been said and what has been done. Now, this is good and bad, because when we look at our own lives, when I look at my own leadership, my own life, and I've had large staffs at different times, large organizations at different times, and then I've had small organizations. I've had large stages and small stages, and there's been a lot that I've said and a lot that I've done. And some of it's incredible, and I still get some kudos for that. And some of it hasn't been incredible. Some of the ways I treated different staff members or said different things or initiatives that I ran or requirements that I asked of my staff. When I look back, I realized that some of what I said was awesome, some of what I did was awesome, and some was not, and some was not. I can't go back and change that. All I can be remembered and reminded and pointed out is that it's not just what I said and what I've done, it's what I say and what I do. When we come through these 5 different areas of influence, it's what we said, it's what we did, it's what we say, and it's what we do. There's a past tense aspect to our influence, and there's a present day aspect. The past tense should encourage us, and it should warn us to examine what we're doing now and what we're saying now. So how do we influence people? It's from what we said, it's what we did, It's also what we say. When I think about people and what they say, one of the people that come to mind is Steve Gutzler. Steve Gutzler, he and I have this bromance, and Steve is about 20 years ahead of my career now in speaking and coaching and authoring. And he's a well-known, well-regarded keynote speaker and executive coach. The guy is just a legend. And one of the things that makes Steve so amazing is his words now, his present day words. He speaks to his clients, he speaks to his audience, he speaks to his family and to his friends, and he speaks words of encouragement. He's always able to find the best in someone. And isn't that incredible? Don't you want to be that type of person? That you're thinking about not just what you said in the past for the good or bad, but what you're saying right now. Because what you say right now, as you turn this podcast off and go to your office or go to your family, what you say right now has the ability to shift someone, to influence someone, and to lead someone in a direction. The way that you recognize someone's accomplishment today, your words today, what you communicate today leads. This is why I say again and again that leadership and communication go hand in hand. Because when you say something, it influences that person, and then that leads them to what they might end up doing. You might say to them, I believe that you can do my job. Well, they're going to be looking at life differently because of those words that you said. They're going to be thinking about their responsibility and the areas that they need to grow. You might say to somebody, I think that you would be great if you would take a step in this area. And as a result of that, they're now considering that. How many lives have been changed because someone said something? And how many lives can we change right now when we choose to be people who say positive and bring out the best? Not only is it from what we say, it's also from what we do. So there's that past tense, said, say, done, and do. What is it that we're doing right now? Right before this video, I got off the phone with Honore Corder. And Honore Corder is an executive coach. She's an author of 50 plus books. She runs a mastermind. She has all kinds of different areas. She really has an empire that really goes around her books. She really is an impressive person. And in talking to Honore, I found out that she writes books every single day. Now, it's not just that she's done that for 50 different times that influences others. It's that she does it still. She's not just relying on her past accomplishments and track record. She's doing it still today. Now, when I found that out, I thought it was impressive that I had written 4 books, but I wasn't currently writing a book. And as I heard that she writes all the time, every single day, she has 2 hours blocked away, that action, that doing influenced me. Hence, Honore led me. What you do influences the people around you. What you do on a daily basis leads the people who see what you do. So what do? Here's something I do. I make the bed every day, almost every day. So that's something I do. And it just gives me a little bit of control on my life. I do some other things. I write down my most valuable and profitable things that I'm supposed to be working on that day. I try to act accordingly to do so. What is it that you do that can influence the people who see you, who hear you, who watch you? When you do something that impacts people, you're influencing them, and then you're leading them. Go all the way back to Andy Hackett. Andy Hackett, he would talk with me and he would say how much this music impacted him. And then he would go and he would play basketball. Well, when I left his house, the words that I heard him saying and those actions that I saw him doing carried with me as I went back to my house. And I would turn on Pearl Jam and play basketball in my bedroom with one of those little laundry baskets. Incredible way to lead people is thinking through what we say and what we do. Now, there's a 5th way. This is to listen. And not just to listen, but to be present through your listening. When you take interest in the people around you, and it's not what you're saying, it's not what you are doing, but it's what they are saying, and it's their heart, and it's their actions that they want to unpack through their words, and you're listening and you're being present with them, that's an incredible, incredible way to influence someone else, to lead them. by simply being there. I remember the story of my friend. Something dramatic had happened in his life, and it ended up with him in the hospital being there for a family member. He was heartbroken. And in that moment, someone else showed up. We'll call this other person John. John showed up. Now, my friend thought John was probably going to talk, and he thought he'd have to entertain John in the hospital. After all, he didn't know him that well. But John showed up with a couple of magazines that he knew my friend would like. He handed them over, and he sat there. He was just present. Eventually, my friend started talking a little bit, and John just listened. I always thought that was a powerful story. And my friend said it was powerful in that moment, and it influenced him, and it influenced future actions he would take. I had something similar when I was 25. My mom died suddenly in a car accident. And I had a friend who came to my house and slept on the floor at the foot of my bed, and was just there. I didn't have to say anything if I didn't want to say anything. I didn't have to talk to him if I didn't want to talk to him. He was simply there. Still today, 15 years later, that has a huge influence on my life. Just being there with people and listening, an incredible role that it plays in your life and in the lives of the people that work for you. Sometimes in corporate world, and I've been in the corporate world, it's fast and it's furious. There's always something new going on. And when someone just pauses and listens, man, I had a boss who did that at one point in time, just paused and listened, lots going on. But he just sat and he listened to me ramble, he listened to me talk. And when I said some stupid things, he didn't hold it against me. He just allowed me to be me. And that is a way of influencing and leading people. Lead through listening. As a leader, we act, we cast vision, we work towards that vision. As communicators, we talk, we speak, we go, and sometimes it can be too fast. And we need to slow down and listen. To me, this reminds me of Chad, another top 5 influential people in my life. Chad has always been there to listen. Now, I've watched what he's done. I've heard incredible things he's said to me in the past. He still says those to me, and he still does great actions. So he's leading me on all fronts. But he's most impactful is when he pauses. In the midst of a conversation, he hears me. He listens. He catches something that I'm talking about, and he asks for more. And he's always interested in it. It's been an incredible impact on my life to have someone who would listen and understand. So as we are leaders and as we're communicators, it's incredible to look back on the things that we've said and we've done. Sometimes we need to own up to mistakes that we've had in our leadership and in our words. Other times, we just praise it. Go, that was great. I'm so glad I said that. I'm so glad I did that. We use that to help us reflect on what we're doing right now. What are we saying right now? What are those around us hearing? What are our kids hearing? Much like what my son is hearing about soccer is influenced by what my dad did with soccer. So can you think through what you are saying because of what has been said in the past? And what are you doing? What actions in your life would you be very proud of if people started emulating and doing the things that you're doing? But then take a moment and pause. How well are you listening? Are you listening to your spouse or your loved ones? Are you listening to your family up and down, the ancestors and the descendants? Are you listening to the people who are below you on the chain and by your side on the chain and above you on the chain? Who are you listening to, and how well are you listening? Because when you listen, you make an impact. Andy Hackett and I got on the phone not too long ago, and we talked for an hour and a half. And we talked through a lot of our memories, and we talked through a lot of our journey. An hour and a half of talking. And Andy talked for about 45 minutes of it, and he listened for the next 45 minutes. It's amazing to see what happens when there's give and take in a relationship. That is leadership. That is influence.
Thanks for listening to Advance with Mike Acker, a podcast designed to provide an edge for leaders through improving practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Mike is a best-selling author and business owner who has helped many leaders increase their skills and their confidence, propelling them to new heights in their personal and professional endeavors. Join an incredible group of professionals taking the steps to become better leaders at connect.stepstoadvance.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.